What's up, Grant? How you doing?
Oh, hi, boys. It's been, what, 6 years since I've seen you in person?
No kidding.
Oh shit, right?
You guys have a set? I know as the guest, I'm not supposed to address the things that I'm noticing, but the beautiful logo behind you fellas.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I decided I knew there was we're trying to attract lady listeners, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe some fellas. But yeah, it's tank time, guys. It's just letting you know. Do you guys drink beer on this podcast, right?
Yes.
We do, which we know that you do not.
I do not, but I actually broke open a new cartridge just for this. This is ATF. And we got a little delayed, and I've been ripping on it for about 40 minutes, and I'm like, woo! Hold on, I'm gonna move.
There we go. Then that delay is my fault, and you're welcome.
No, I love it. This is perfect. This is exactly how I wanted to spend the afternoon, just getting ripped. I actually am getting caught up on all my YouTube bingery. Sorry, fellas. I know this the audience doesn't want to hear technical difficulty talk in the year of COVID and Zoom, but hold on. Okay.
What happened?
I'm the worst guest ever. Here we go. Look at this.
We're the worst guests.
No, just move your camera down, buddy.
No, that's not how this works, Mike.
It isn't. Okay.
We're doing a professional broadcast. How are you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. I was just I honestly was in the Cal Ranch store.
Ooh.
And I was just just perusing the aisles to get my new puppy a collar.
Wait.
And I get this call from Rob Hunter, and I was like, oh shit. I forgot about the damn podcast.
It's very rare that Mike is late, let alone. So I was like, dude, you okay?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the puppy. What kind of puppy?
Thank you. German short hair. I pick him up this weekend or Friday. We don't really know how we're going to work it out, but yeah.
That's fun. It's so cool. What, did you get a puppy or a cat, Rob Hunter? It looks like you have lost half a human since I've seen you. You are svelte. Mike, you are also svelte.
Oh, thanks, pal.
Yeah, but Rob, geez, man, looking good.
Rob's on the svelte train.
You opening a gym soon? I'll join, man.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do it. Let's absolutely do it.
So I don't want to derail you guys. I know you're professionals, so I will
listen.
I will be calm.
Understand this, Grant. This is the podcast, so there's no derailing or railing. It's just there are no rails.
Fantastic. What are you
talking?
What's on the docket? What are you guys into? What are you talking about these days? Are you talking about TV, pop culture, hunting? What are you doing? There we go. Yeah. See, I work. Gratefully I work on a very cool show down the hall from where you guys are, and it's the JohnJay Rich show in Phoenix, based out of there's a few different cities, but we're based in Phoenix, and it's nice to have conversations with you guys about dude stuff. Even though I'm not technically considered a dude in all the proper sense, I'm kind of a nerd dork.
No, you could rock a dude ranch, buddy. You're all the dude you need to be.
Especially with those guns.
Dude,
Grant's guns.
No, man. I put this. I actually, but when we in the original time that we were planning on starting this, I actually had a suit top on, like a white shirt, tie, and no pants. And I was going tight, uncomfortable briefs, and I was gonna stand up and be like, hey. But then I chickened out. I got too high, and I just decided I was literally sitting in my underwear, and I was thinking, is this really a good idea? And I mean, it seemed like a good idea for about, 10 minutes, and then it just.
All right. Yeah.
Is that normal?
I am wearing underwear, but they are under my jeans right now. So I too am wearing underwear.
Come on, guys. Come on. So yeah, I went. What was I going to tell you? I wanted to have a hallway conversation with you, Mike.
Yeah.
I went fishing.
What?
I am officially an adult male. I went fishing at Lake Pleasant.
Okay.
I think. Is that pretty close? Is that like 20 minutes away from work or somewhere?
Okay, yeah, right.
I went with I don't know if you know this guy, Matthew Blades.
Oh boy!
Oh.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Excuse
me. Let me pick up the name you just dropped.
I know you guys. It was
Big time.
I wasn't expecting. I mean, it's cool because you talk to I talk to you guys all the time. I talk to people in the hallway, and when somebody's like, "Hey, let's go do something," you're like, "Really?" So yeah, we went fishing for like 3 hours. I don't fish. I'm not a fisherman
You are now.
I could tell there was a point where I was a little too stoned to be fishing because I thought I got the big one, and I was yelling shark and all this just absurd stuff, and we're on a 16-foot fiberglass canoe, great a Coleman canoe, and I have my feet up on the end of it, the pointed end, like I'm tuna fishing, and then come to find out my line was just wrapped around the motor. And he just cut my line, and then he just put the rod into the holder, and he was like, "All right, we're gonna go over there now." And I didn't fish the rest of the day, and I just.
But you caught the boat. That's the big haul of the day. You caught the boat.
Big winner.
Yeah,
you got something. Yeah. I'm actually bummed out I didn't get to take you on your first time. I didn't even know that was an option. I got to get on the Blades program and just saying, "Hey, does someone want to go do something random outdoors?"
You know what was cool is it was nice just to go out, and we didn't talk about radio. We didn't talk about anything like that. We just talked about fish, where the fish go, and how the wind blows. Man, stuff.
Hurt you into any kind of religion or something like that?
No.
Recruiting trip.
If fishing is a religion, count me in, guys.
It is, brother. It is. And we welcome you to the fold. All right, Robbie, you kick this thing off, buddy.
All right, we're going to do our formal start here. I may actually just leave this on the actual podcast because it seems kind of fun. So, but for our purposes, for those behind the scenes, we have a formal start, which we will do in 3, 2, and 1. His name is Grant. His podcast is a smash. He works with us, and he's an all-around amazing dude. So we wanted to have Grant Inman on the Brewmance podcast today to have a conversation with over a beer. My name is Rob Hunter, joined by Mike Russell. Mike, what are we drinking today as we chat with Grant? As you can see on the video, Grant is in a happy mood. More on that in a moment.
Mother Road's Archive Ale right now. Archive. This is a limited release. This is only for the cool kids that can get up to the Flagstaff and get to that shop up there.
Exactly right. So this was a special gift from our buddy Dennis, who works at Mother Road Brewing. So we're big fans. So we're going to see how this is. He told me it's very good. So we will see. So Grant Inman is joining us. Grant is no longer a drinker because Grant used to drink a little bit too much.
I was the best drinker, and I was too good at it. Some people in my life told me, Grant, you should retire, go out on top. And I said, will do. And then I moved across the country. So, hello. Thank you for having me.
So Grant's podcast is called My Funeral Home Stories because Grant used to work in a funeral home when he was a kid. His family owned a funeral home. So it was like, okay, I'm going to work in the funeral home. And it's absolutely awesome, the podcast. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But he also has another podcast, which ties into kind of what we do here on the Brewmance, how to become a terrible person, which, of course, is the best version of your terrible person.
Yeah. I realize, what's funny is you're giving me this introduction and I think about my outfit choice. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm a real pro here. So I do how to become a terrible person. It's now it's going out. We're going to start doing twice a week, but we have a text line. We've got the email. We've got all that stuff. We take phone calls and we basically give people selfish, good advice to live their life by. And it's not always great advice. In fact, I get a lot of emails every week. We get called on a regular basis because, it's just fun when you're on a podcast giving bad advice. It's also fun to just kind of talk shit. So there's a lot of stuff that probably, if more people listen to it, it probably wouldn't be okay. But since the right amount of people listen to it, it kind of goes by unnoticed. So, but I don't know. It was something I started doing before I stopped drinking. It was a podcast in 2013 and I killed it because it was just sad. So I kept everything and then moved it over when I started doing working in radio, and then it just kind of took off. it was a real treat. But the funeral home thing is I think that's going to be the bread and butter here soon.
And now there's a tie here that we're painting over because Rob, you know him, quite the humble one. So Rob is actually a voice on both of those. Rob does the intro, right, for Terrible Person. He also is part of the Funeral Home Stories. Is he not? We're so proud of him.
It's so funny because it's a great thing that you guys drink on this podcast because I'm pretty stoned right now. And I totally forgot when I saw you guys that I even do a podcast called My Funeral Home. So I just was like, oh yeah, we're just talking about stuff. And so I mean, Rob has saved my ass in so many ways over the last probably 6 or 7 years, doing voice stuff for the show I work on, and then also doing the introduction and being a good journalist and interviewing me for these post-mortem discussions after I finish a season of the Funeral Home Stories. And he gets to the bottom of it. We get dark, it gets weird, and it's always funny because I send Rob a message every time. We've done 3 of them, at least 3 of them, right?
Yep.
And we record for 2 hours. And then the episode that I release is 35-40 minutes. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, man. I said some crazy shit that I really shouldn't have said. And it's fun because a lot of it, I think in the last postmortem, I just basically left it as is. And we had a pretty intense back and forth a few times there. That was, I don't know. You're a good interviewer. And Mike, nice to see you.
It's good to see you, Cal. I'm glad to be here. I'm just riding along. I'm the third wheel today. It's all good. I'm totally okay with
no, Mike. You are also inspiring news, man. I love listening. I listen to you when I get up early on Saturday mornings, and it's Saturday, right? The weekends blur together, but I listen to you, and you're funny. You're funny by yourself. And you're funny by yourself about hunting, fishing, and the outdoors, which is for somebody who's not into it, I can be entertained by you. And then when the two of you become the Megatron of what's
Phoenix Afternoon Radio,
you're Russell and Hunter now, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Badasses. I love it. I'm a fan of radio, and I think what you guys do is really cool and rad. So good to have. Thanks. I'll see you guys later.
And there's our 5 minutes with Grant.
Check the mail, buddy. That's fantastic. So wait, I don't want to paint this because you have a crazy success and crazy following in both of the podcasts. We're talking like worldwide kind of stuff here. And you did bring up that when you have a 2-hour interview with Rob, that you whittle that down to 35 minutes or 13 minutes or whatever it is. And I've heard you say that several times when you're talking to me or whatever, you're talking about whittling it down. That's impressive. To me, that just sounds intimidating. Like I would think about that and I would just say, okay, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go fishing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do any of that. That takes a lot of time and effort. How in the hell do you do that?
Well, I think the thing that drives me is, and the thing I'm always thinking about is, am I being funny? Am I being interesting? Or am I just talking? And a lot of times I'm just talking, and that's the joy of having your own podcast, your own thing that you do, because you're solely responsible for the voice and how your guest sounds, how you sound. If it's a story, if you're going from topic to topic, it's nice to, tighten things up, but also realize that not everything you have to say is interesting. That's the thing I learned, and then I'd listen to myself edit or while I'm editing, and I just am like, you're an idiot. What are you doing, man? But then like the cool thing about the Funeral Home Stories is I do all the editing for Funeral Home Stories before I record it, basically. So it's just written concise. Like it's exactly what I want to say. And then it takes me, about three hours to record it. And then the 3-hour recording gets whittled down to 26 minutes. And that is this internet? I can say anything.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. I like that. You can almost. It's that the editing of that podcast is a fucking nightmare, and I'm choosing to use "fuck" right there because it is something that's the hardest part of the podcast, is deciding what's good, what's not good, what you wrote that is beautifully written but doesn't fit the tone once you hear how it's voiced. That's the stuff that really is exciting. Plus, I have an insane amount of student loan debt for a journalism degree. So if I'm going to do something, it's going to be good. That's the expectation I set. Sometimes I do some stuff that's not good, and I'm really disappointed in myself. So,
well, I hope that intimidates a lot of people. I hope that scares a lot of people, because Robin, I'm sure you get the same thing. Oh yeah, I'm going to start a podcast. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start. We're going to get sponsors. It's going to be great. I'm going to do this, and they have no damn idea what they're doing. And one of the things, especially about you, Grant, that I think is the reason for your success for Terrible Person and for Funeral Home Stories, is because you have actual talent. You're actually fun to listen to. And I'm being serious when I say this, because I talk to people that want to have a podcast, with beer podcast, or they always come to me about the booze podcasts. And I say, okay, it can have legs. Like, you could plan out 52 episodes, right, and you have it all dialed in. If you're not talented, if you're not funny and interesting, and you are just having a topical podcast, you're garbage. You're toast. It's not going to last. Well, you actually have something, and it's that intensity, and it's that desire to make it good and entertaining.
For sure. I thank you for saying all that. That's very nice. I think I tell everyone who tells me they're going to start a podcast, do it. I mean,
why is that?
Because most people that come up and tell me they want to start a podcast, I look at them and I'm thinking, yeah, that goes 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. You do 2 episodes, and when you realize what it takes to edit, when people tell you that your product is bad when you don't edit it, or there's so many things. But there's with podcasting, I'm on 100 and some episodes of Terrible Person, and we just started making money on some back end stuff, but not a lot, enough to justify doing it. Sure, but the funeral home thing is now that I know that there's an audience, like building the worldwide audience just from having a weird niche is what you were talking about. If you can do that, and you have something, then drop the hammer and do it immediately. But if you don't want to work as hard as you possibly can work, don't do it. I would say, what is it? Whatever you do, if you would do it for free forever, then you should do a podcast. I mean, if it's a everyday thing, if you want to do it one every day, then do it every day. If you can imagine doing it and that would make you happy, knowing what all the work is, then do it. But you're not going to make any money right now, because the market is so oversaturated with garbage podcasts, man.
And then no one's going to help you find sponsors. You got to do that all on your own. Grant, you've learned that kind of the hard way. And again, Grant Inman is with us here on the Brewmance podcast. Check out both of his podcasts, My Funeral Home Stories and How to Become a Terrible Person. I love this question because I've
also
asked you this
Serial.
before.
Check out Serial. I wrote that, and no, I'm just kidding.
No,
sorry.
Might as well.
I just wanted to pull the rug out from that great introduction,
just like he does. But when you talk about My Funeral Home Stories, this is an important question, because how much time, you mentioned 3 hours to just record. Grant scripts out the podcast, so he has like storyboard, and he has all those ideas, and he's moving things around. So if you're thinking about, okay, and you've done 3 seasons of My Funeral Home Stories.
Correct.
How long on average does it take you from start to finish to produce? Do we want to know? Do you want to know?
I mean, I'm writing 1 episode right now. That's the premium episode coming out in 2 weeks. I'm on 26 pages right now.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it like I'm halfway done. Yeah, and that's a problem, and I need to address it probably today because I need to, because first to address the writing of it. It's when you have time to think about a story that's happened in your life, you can work out the beats, like maybe a good joke, or just a good story. It has kind of a beginning, middle, and end with some sort of hook, punchline that ties everything together. I don't want to just tell you all the facts in order and how they happen, because that's not a good story. That's just me telling you things. And that's what 95% of podcasts are just people, and then this, and then this, and then this happened to me. And it's not fun or interesting. So the scripting of it right now with this 26-page one, I've been working on this one for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And that's every day. I mean, 3 weeks, that's just writing. So that's not the prep, because the prep, that's probably about another 2 or 3 weeks. And I do that with each story, which is why it takes so long.
And what's a premium episode?
So it's a new thing because I can't do Patreon because the format just doesn't make any sense. It's a book. Once you hear it once, you got it. You don't need to pay for a monthly $5 subscription, any of that stuff. I don't believe in that model for that podcast. So basically what I'm doing is I'm releasing episodes in between seasons and charging $3-4.
Okay.
And it's full production. It's actually a lot more. So for example, I would normally put a disclaimer at the beginning of pretty hardcore episodes. There's no disclaimer, and truthfully, there's no holding back in the detail and storytelling. And I think it's kind of a prologue to the next section, the next bit of stories I'm writing, which I'm pretty excited about. So it sets up, it foreshadows a lot of the stuff that's going to happen in the next 3 seasons. So yeah, it's so nerdy, man. I feel like it's the nerdy, and I'm so passionate about it, but describing it, it's like telling people about your Dungeons and Dragons characters, you know.
But this is real life. I mean,
yeah,
you've seen more dead bodies than the average person,
right?
In all kinds of different ways, from the normal passed away in their sleep to one of the favorite episodes of mine was, and this is morbid to say, but it's the woman 4th of July sitting out on her out at their lake house, and then some people shoot off some projectile and it just hits her in the back of the head, and you had to go to that scene. It's supposed to be this big celebration, and it turns out to be, we have to take this body away.
What I mean, and the thing is if you describe that as, I mean, now it's such a good memory. It brings me joy to think about, even though it's such an awful thing. You know what I mean? Because it's just such a, especially now that Rob Hunter, somebody I'd never met in a million years any other way, knows that story. And it knows the Baja Men reference, and just
the neighbors. It was involved the neighbors.
And like forever and ever, when I hear the Baja Man, I will think of this little old lady with the back of her head blown off. And I'm just like, who let the dogs out? You know what I mean?
This is why Grant is interesting, because he's lived this life that most of us don't live. And you started at the funeral home. How old were you when your parents kind of pulled you into service? 13?
13 years old, the age of what is that? A work permit in the state I lived in.
Okay.
Special permission.
Yeah.
No, off.
Yeah. And I think it was just one of those things. It was probably May. My dad said, we're going to get you fitted for some suits, and you're going to start working in June here at the funeral home every day, going to work with me and then coming home. And then that led to every summer, and then over breaks, and then it just turned into every weekend. And then eventually through college, it was every day. And then I dropped out of college to go to mortuary school. And that was the period where I was like, oh, okay, I need to finish my fine arts degree. Because this isn't, I don't want to do 80-hour work weeks. I don't want to be married to this giant building that I need to succeed, even though like trends in the funeral industry are so weird right now. In terms, nobody's spending money like they used to. The expectation was if somebody died in your family, it was a $12,000 just hammer that dropped, unless you had what I don't even know what it's called, aftercare, the insurance for that sort of thing. And now people that were really killing it 10 years ago in the funeral industry are
wow.
And so it's one of those things where I saw that. I didn't see it. Like I was an alcoholic. I didn't see it. I just was like, I don't want to do this. And then now I can say I saw it. But what essentially, all the people I knew that were involved just kind of fell out of love with it. And because the money, nobody's spending money on funerals right now, guys. Let's get that out on the airway.
I don't want anyone to spend any money on my funeral except for a barbecue at my house. That's basically it. I mean, we're gonna have some good meat, but it's you're gonna first burn me and then maybe burn some meat after that. I mean, you guys be Darth Vader style.
Do you guys know what a sky burial is?
No, it's one shot into a cannon.
No, I mean theoretically that sounds rad too.
Yeah,
but this is what I want, and this is not hyperbole. This is 100%. Do this. You guys are responsible. You too.
Okay. 10-4.
What it is you'll put my body in a bag, like a big burlap bag.
Then your body or your ashes, your remains.
No, like my freshly dead body.
Okay, 10-4. Got it.
The day of, that sort of vibe.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. Just pull that bag out into the middle of the desert. Usually they do it in Tibet or a place like that where there are giant vultures, and then they just dump the bag out, and they kind of rough up your skin a little bit, or I don't know what they do. They cut into you, and then they just let the birds go to town. And you can. And what's cool is you can actually YouTube search this, and you can watch giant vultures devouring people. It's fascinating.
Hold on. Do we need to take you to Tibet? I'm taking copious notes here. Do we need to
just
do it out here in the desert?
I live right next to Red Mountain. Okay. So,
I mean, we'll do it that way. Okay, fantastic. All right, good. All right.
Yeah, or you could do it at Chase Field, just in the center of Chase Field. That'd be pretty neat.
That would be pretty neat.
Yeah, I like that program right there.
I'm tying it in. It's Brewmance.
But that's the thing. I understand this. We're chatting with Grant Inman, and Grant, I have to tell you that you're talking about your 13-year-old work experience.
Yes.
You bring that experience to what you do. And that's what makes one of the many things, the several slices that make it what it is. Because I worked at my family's wheel shop. I made cardboard boxes. That's what I did. And I polished rims. That's all I did. And then Rob worked at a damn grocery store. Like, how boring is our life? And you were working at a funeral home at 13. It made you, and
for sure
gives all of this to us. It's fantastic.
I'm definitely, I will be honest and say that it probably had a negative effect, and whatever I'm repressing in the next 5 to 10 years is going to come out big time. And I'm just going to, everything me handling it well, bringing it all. Yeah. I think I'm going to fall apart in like probably 6 months, guys. Just
don't worry. We got you. We're
right here.
No, just write it out. Your writing is your therapy, right?
I think the thing is now that it's so far gone, it's so far in the past, and I'm not planning on getting back in the funeral industry. It's fun, it's cathartic. It just gets it out in a way that I know people like, and I like to write in a style that's very graphic. I prefer it. I'm a big free speech guy, and I like to use words that I shouldn't use. Obviously, all like the bad words. I like bad words. I like filthy language. I think that's
normal talk.
Yeah,
right?
And describing things really gross is really satisfying, especially when you do it well. When somebody can tell you, I get messages where there was one episode I put out that was a real tearjerker. Apparently, I thought it was more funny and dark, but apparently a lot of people thought it was really sad.
But not for the reason we thought. It was a tearjerker for a different reason, right? Not because of the dead body.
Yeah, it did it shifted in a really interesting way. But I was getting these messages from people that were at the beginning of the episode, I thought I was going to puke. And at the end of the episode, I'm crying. And these were guys, girls. It was the strangest thing. I was not. And there were people from Ireland, Australia, like all these bizarre places of the world telling me. And I made all these people cry in the same day. And it was such a good feeling.
Yes.
Like, I just ruined so many thousands of people's day. It was fabulous.
You ruined their day. You brought that emotion up. That's fantastic, man. Get excited about that. I mean, usually people cry when they hear 3 hours of Rob and I, and they just worry about the 3 hours they lost in their life.
That's do you have critics?
Oh, of course we do.
Oh, yeah.
How do you
get criticized for the way I read the weather sometimes.
Give me
He gets criticized for how he laughs. He has one of the most amazing laughs in the business.
Yeah, he does.
Rail on for his laugh. That's stupid.
So what's the advice? You guys are I've seen you, and you were professionals when I started, and so I'm going to call you your veteran broadcasters, veteran personality types. What do you do when people have something negative to say, and now they can just reach into your pocket and tell you instantly that you suck and that they hate your weather report or, beautiful eyes.
I won't do it over the air, but I'll send you to the video if you want to see it. That's just how we respond right there.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And just
period. I mean, there's nothing else to do. Like, how sad is your life?
Right.
That you have to rail on radio personalities, or that you have to rail on podcast personalities, that you are so bummed out that you can't do what we do, that your only outlet is to try to bring us down. That's pathetic. So sometimes I kill them with kindness. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Lots of other options out there, but I appreciate your feedback. And then nothing. They don't
see. That seems like a responsible thing to do, because I had a negative iTunes review for A Terrible Person last week, and Caitlin and I did an hour of just tearing apart this guy by name. And just, and what's funny is we recorded it, and we were both a little stoned when we did it, and we were just having a great time. And I uploaded it, and then I had a moment in the middle of the night where I was like, I should re-listen to that before it goes live. And so I think I edited it out about, 15 minutes of just slamming. Just one review sent me over the edge. And I was like, okay, this is a problem. I need to talk to adults about this.
Well, and here's what you learn. If you're brave enough to put yourself out there, some people are not going to like that.
Sure.
So what I do now, because I've been doing this for 20 years, I've been criticized for 20 years. So at some point you get callous to it. Right. What I like to do is I go, okay, I want to look at it from a different point of view. Is there anything that person is saying that can help me be better?
Sure.
Because sometimes people do have good points or good criticism, which is a critique. And I'm like, okay, if I take my emotions out of it and their emotions out of it, is there anything there of value?
Right.
And then I look at the value and I go, okay, there's value in that. And then I'll try to approach it from that standpoint, because I've been reading a lot of Stoic philosophy. Grant, I know we're gonna get nerdy now.
Oh my God, is this where Mike Russell tunes out? Like, are you a philosophy guy, Mike?
Oh, I'm definitely a philosophy guy, but it's more outdoors philosophy than it is more survival philosophy.
That's right, brother.
Well, no,
shoot. You better believe it, brother.
It's not like Randy Savage or anything. Oh yeah. It's nothing like that. Rob's going with the more Greek Stoics. I'm more going with the survivalists, the John Muir's, the Teddy Roosevelt's, that kind of different philosophy,
which are kind of stoic in their
Greek
day.
Stoics. That is
Marcus Aurelius is one of them. Socrates is basically a little bit before.
Oh, I was going to say, okay.
But it was the foundation. Like, you had Plato and you had Socrates. They basically took their philosophies to that level of, okay, basically it's idea of separating your emotions from your actions.
Sure.
And, if someone hits you and it stings, you're like, ooh, why does that sting me? It's partly because you think perhaps that about yourself. So you have to reckon with that. You have to go, okay, that stung me because my body is telling me something. So I haven't gotten over something, maybe an embarrassment. So that's where I go when I get criticized. But, after 22, 28 years, or however many years, I first started my college radio career at the age of 18, I think. So from 18 to 42, I've been criticized. So at some point you develop a different kind of view of it.
Right. But I don't want this to paint the picture that we just have this all mapped, because we will fire back, Grant. We will.
That's cool.
Go toe to toe at some point. We are humans, so we are going to step toe to toe with somebody who pops off on us. It's not all just water off a duck's ass kind of stuff. It kind of stings sometimes, and it makes you want to react the way you react.
See, I just think I really genuinely, it's fun to talk about for an hour, to keep bringing up on the podcast, but I stopped caring. It's hard to give it a shit, truthfully, because those people aren't in your life. You don't,
True.
You there's no connection to the real world. Now, maybe if somebody at the grocery store said, hey, I heard your podcast, it hurt my feelings, that might be a little different. I might be, oh my gosh, I need to change me. No, I never. I would never say that.
But that's the other part about what the Stoics reminds you. So Marcus Aurelius wrote this. He wrote meditations to himself, and they were kind of reminders to himself. He says, people kind of come at you where they're at in their life. So if they're criticizing you, that also says a lot about them. So if their feelings were hurt, You can't control other people's feelings. So you're like, okay, that's fantastic. Maybe you should examine why that hurts your feelings rather than you have to take this internally and go, dang, I got to change the whole podcast because one person in Fry's, the grocery store,
right,
told me that they were upset.
No, there's got to be two things there. There's got to be two things there. Marcus Aurelius, one, was trying to take over the entire world at the time. And like, he was like ward crushing people, this, that, and the other thing. And the other thing is he doesn't have the internet. So it was like his criticism came in here by decree of here, you know, all that crap. That's all he got. And he got it maybe once every month, you know, not once every 10 minutes on Twitter like we do.
See, I'm realizing now that my education has failed me because I took the wrong philosophy classes. I took epistemology and metaphysics. So you guys are having this really astute conversation.
Epistemology?
Exactly.
It's the theory of knowledge and what you actually know. I love it.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's a quick class for me. That's I go and check in, sign in the roster, I'm gone.
I took all that stuff because, and I realized now why I took all that stuff, and I realized it fishing with Matthew Blades, and I took so many of those classes because I thought having that information at 20 or 22 would make me seem super interesting.
Yeah,
and I realized I didn't do great in those classes because I was more taking them as like a flex to show my friends, hey, I'm taking metaphysics. And they're like, well, do you understand it? No, but it's awesome. It's like, what if the Matrix was real, man? Like that's and
I want an upgrade. If the Matrix is real, I want an upgrade. I want best steak every night. Right? It doesn't matter.
I want like unlimited. I want that Grand Theft Auto unlimited bank account thing.
Yeah,
that would be terrific.
Thank you. Yeah. And let me don't you painted over you went fishing with Matthew Blake. So I'm gonna dig in a little bit because as an angler myself, and this is something that you just ventured into for the first time in your life. I like to try to, you're trying to figure out what the hell a fish want to do. They want to bite, they want to eat, they want to know what they want to do, what they want to see, this and that. So you kind of put yourself in that mindset, like where lure is and what the fish sees. I want to know from someone who's never done it before, as a grown assets man. And who was baked out of his tree at the time. I want to know what your mind's eye saw your lure on the bottom doing and what the fish were responding to it.
Great
question. That's what I want to know.
So here's when you say at the bottom, I realized about an hour in, I had it maybe about that far. I was just dragging it. I was just like, and he was like, dude, you got to drop it down more. And and then I'd let it out maybe like 2 arm lengths, and I'd be like, and then I reel it back in, and I'd just be like floating it next to the boat. So I can tell you, I had this cool, it was doing this, it was gold. And apparently they enjoy that. But I don't know. The thing I was thinking about a lot, truthfully, was, you know, the seagulls that you see in the middle of the ocean?
Yeah.
Like, where do they sleep? Do they have, like, where do they go when they go home? Is their home just like ice? Anyway.
No.
Do they land on boats and chill for a while? Because there's boats coming through. That's a great metaphysical question.
That's seriously, the seagulls are like, do you want to go boat and chill for a bit? I'm going to go sit on the boat. You want to boat and chill?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like that has never made, I watched Deadliest Catch and I was obsessed with it, but I'd always see these seagulls and they'd show them in the middle of the Bering Sea up near, and it's like, so they fly 70 miles to just park and then just fly back. Like, what's the deal? What's the deal with these seagulls, guys?
I took Rob ocean fishing in kayaks. And we show up in San Diego, and he says that we're getting the hotel room, and there's a picture of a sea lion on the wall. He goes, "Oh, look at that picture of sea lion." I said, "You're going to not like that picture when we get back tomorrow. You're not going to at all, because you wonder what the seagulls are thinking. Here's what the sea lions are thinking: snag everyone's bait and make their day miserable."
And they do it in this super sly way, Grant, where you're like,
no.
Yeah.
You guys, are sea lions real? Like the curly Q tail things?
What are you talking about?
What are sea lions?
Sea lions, the big seal, lions.
I thought you were talking about I thought you were describing the
seahorse,
like a seahorse. Yeah.
Are seahorses real?
They are real.
They're very real.
Anyway, now that I know you're talking about a seal, So they steal.
Aquaman rode a seahorse. Come on, man. Come on.
I didn't think Aquaman's not real. I hate that.
Yes, he is.
Stop. No, I'm just kidding. That's where I
find out how high Grant is.
That's where I shut you down as comic book talk. I go, no, sir, I will not.
I'm out. Speaking of, I want to ask you about this because you are what we call a THC or a marijuana advocate.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
You used to drink.
Totally.
And another thing about Grant that's super interesting, he's a phenomenal drummer.
Thank you.
So, but you were kind of doing music and you explain on My Funeral Homes, the podcast, how much you were drinking during that. You're playing drums and you're cool. Great. Yeah. I'll play drums. I'll get shots of vodka or whatever.
Yeah, man.
But you transitioned away from alcohol into marijuana. So tell us more about that. Why are you an advocate for the THC?
I want to. Okay. So before I tell you why I'm an advocate for THC, I want to describe how cool I was because I feel like we just glossed over that.
I love this.
One of the bands I was in. This was a couple years before I stopped drinking. This is the level that I partied at. We were opening for Megadeth outside in Quad City, Illinois,
Iowa, Quad City, Iowa, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Rock Island or something like that. Anyway, I had 4 Long Island iced teas in the hour before we went on stage, and then I had 6 of the tall, big Bud Light cans during the hour set. And then I came off and probably had 3 or 4 more Long Island iced teas. But I was the life of the party. I was a really fun dude, and I was in really good shape and really like tan and reckless and just stupid. And I would do stuff like that gig. My car got pulled up by a wrecker, like they were towing it because it was backstage, and there was a cop there. And I walked up. They were like, Grant. Your car's on the thing. You're not going to make it home. Blah, 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 blah. Like I was driving home the next day, but they were like, it's going to take a day to get it out of wherever they're putting it. So I see my car going up on the thing and I'm hammered and there's a cop there. And I just walk up to the cop and I just show him my backstage, like my VIP backstage laminate thing. And I said, that's my car. And he goes, we're going to put it down and you're going to drive it around the block and park it right over there. And I said, okay. And then he just watched me move my car completely hammered. And I mean, it was just like that. And it would be like, I'd get kicked out of clubs I was playing. Like I'd be on stage and I'd get the shit kicked out of me by a bouncer because I'd bring a full-size bottle of booze on stage and just start like I was not a cool person all the time. So anyway, the reason I like the THC stuff is because when I stopped drinking, I stopped cold turkey, which I didn't know any better. So I didn't realize how dangerous that actually probably was. But when I came out here and it became, or Arizona, where it's medically okay, I got a prescription because I was tired of taking Ambien, Xanax, all the prescription drugs that take your personality and make you like a shell of it. I didn't like that. So that's why I became pretty big advocate for THC, I think.
And what was the difference? So what's the difference between, say, drinking that much, having those Long Island iced teas, those 6 big Bud Lights, more Long Island iced teas, driving your car drunk? What did you notice, even from the Ambien? Because Ambien, that can mess you up. Like, that gets people to do crazy things.
I would sleepwalk out of my apartment. Yeah. And I realized when I woke up trying to open my car door, that I was like, I got to chill out on Ambien and stuff because I had my keys in my hand. I was ready to go. Yeah.
Wow. And so you happen to wake up. So you grab the handle and you're like, what am I doing?
It was sometime I was outside and I just came to and I just was like, oh, Ambien is not cool with my sober brain. That was a thing. But I really, the thing I like about THC is it can be casual, it can be relaxing, it can be whatever you kind of need it to be because there's so many options now. And if you find what works, it's usually pretty consistent because of, the how much attention they paid to all the dosing and that sort of thing. Cause they don't want to, it's like Tylenol now. You can't not know what's in a Tylenol tablet or capsule. It's the same type of thing. So it's like really consistent high. And when I was using weed and other drugs, the worst part about it is you didn't know how much exactly you were getting. So if you take mushrooms, you just eat a handful of mushrooms. But with THC, you can be like, I want to take 500 milligrams tonight and just go for it. Or I want to take 10 milligrams and just relax. That's what I really like about it. And I'm sure it's addictive to it. I know that's a problematic statement, but I'm addicted to the habit of it. I enjoy it. And it's a habit and it's an addiction that I think is much less destructive than the alternative. So that's kind of why I'm all for it, man.
My wife sees about half as much as I spend on outdoor stuff, and she still says to this day, there's a lot worse things you can be addicted to.
Totally.
I'm all about that. I'm going with that philosophy.
Weed puts me in a better, more creative, more loving, caring mood, or it also can make me neurotic and paranoid and make all the things I enjoyed about being intoxicated from my past life. You know, I like experiences where you take drugs and things happen that you have really no understanding of. One of the first times I used first times I used weed by myself when I was still drinking. This is in the Midwest. I locked myself in a room because I thought this guy was coming to kill me. I thought there was a dude in my apartment, and I realized there was some other things happening with the marijuana that I had. But it was one of the funnest nights of my life, man. Like, I still look back and just, man, I locked myself in my room. And then when I came out, I didn't recognize my apartment.
Wow.
So I was like, whose stuff is this? Where am I? It was, and then I went to bed fully wiped. Like, my brain just was, I don't know what I smoked or what I had. And when I woke up the next morning, the first thought I had was, wow, that was so fun. That was worth the price of admission. 100%. That's what I strive for, are those nights where just your brain just takes you somewhere and nothing is happening, but you can have a full conversation with somebody and know how it plays out in every different variety of avenues. And it's such a fun drug, guys.
Okay, but the morning after, to me, especially if you like wake up and you say it was that fun, I'm blown away by that, because if I have too much to drink, the first thing I do is grab my cell phone the next morning and go, who did I piss off?
Right.
What did I do? How did I get where I'm at right now? See, that's fun to you?
No, but see, the thing is like once I realized the phone was a destructive thing to have around when you're doing stuff like that, I would just put it away, turn it off, and then I'd take my whatever, I would have these days. I've talked about them before, and I would call them Hunter S. Thompson days, where I wouldn't follow his schedule, but I would just try and live the closest life I could on like a Sunday to Hunter S. Thompson. So I'd wake up, have a real stiff drink pretty much all day, eat hot dogs like on the grill, burnt to shit. And then I go on like a bike ride, take some drugs, or you know what I mean? Just like take some bike drive, do that. I'd ride like 40 miles.
Wow.
And then like and then I'd be like, I'm not hammered anymore. Then I go drive to go get a beer across state line because they sold it. And I'd buy a T-bone steak and drive home listening to like Marillion. Like, just
what is Marillion? I don't even know what that is.
Marillion's like this really cheesy 80s hair band that I would literally.
I'm embarrassed that I know that.
Dude, they had a song called Pain in Heaven, and I would just, it's like, and I would just drive my car and just like in like old Annie Lennox. But then I realized that's not very Hunter S. Thompson-esque, so I guess I'll edit that out later.
No, it's Annie Lennox.
So let's you obviously, you're vaping now. So Mike and I are drinking. That's what we do. These are ideas. The whole idea is to bring people together over a drink, or in this case for Grant, he's vaping. He's vaping some THC.
ATF. Yep. We got an ATF. Yeah, I said ATF. That while the vape. It's so like what I'm doing right now on screen makes me sick. I'm a vape god, guys. No.
So do you like vape? Do you like edibles? Do you like flower? Flower is what I understand is the actual plant of marijuana.
Shut up, Rob. You know what flower is.
I'm just making sure that everybody knows.
I like it all. I when I first started using it, I said, "What's the stuff that you give the sickest people?" And they were like, this stuff. And I go, I will take that. And I started, that was my, and I remember it was at first, when I first started taking it, was this stuff called Rick Simpson oil. RSO is the shorthand for it, but it comes in like a syringe, and it's a really, really distilled THC wax distillate something, and you just let it dissolve under your tongue. And a little guy like this is 1,000 milligrams.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I just put it on a cracker and be like, wow. and then I'd chug a Rockstar energy drink, and I'd be like at it, and it would be that's how it kind of I that's what I was really interested in the beginning, was edibles, just hard, because I like that experience, because that edibles are totally different vibe than smoking. I think that's been hashed and rehashed so many different times, but it's 100% true. So now I just everything. I take it all. They'd be like, "Hey, this THC, this marijuana has heroin in it." I'd be like, "I'll try it." I'm just kidding. But don't do drugs. Nobody do drugs.
Hold on. Side of the heroin part. There's something that's impressive to me, because being from Long Beach, I'm not a stranger to THC at all.
Sure.
But it puts me to sleep.
Oh yeah.
I go to sleep straight. No, doesn't matter. You 5 milligrams, 500 milligrams. I'm going to sleep like the minute it hits.
Sucks,
so
man.
People are talking about, I got this. Like you've been smoking this entire time. Yeah. I would be face down on the desk right now if I was doing that. I don't understand. I'm mildly envious, because I don't know what it's like to kind of cruise around and have this kind of vibe that you're having right now, because my old ass is going to be asleep.
Well, see, I'm pretty strict now. I only do it when I'm at home or like in my bubble, because I prefer it. Just makes me, it's like, oh, I'm home. This is like a treat. It's like having a beer at the end of the day or something like that. But yeah, the putting you to sleep thing, I totally get it. I empathize completely, because there were times where I was spending money on edibles, and I would eat them, and I'd be like, this is going to be a hell of a ride. And then within a half hour, and that sucks, man, because you're like, that's $65. I was planning on having an event, and sometimes I've done it where I think the best for me is like 200, 300 milligrams if I want to have like a nice fun day, and then I'll just have some caffeine, like a black coffee or like an iced tea, and it wakes me right up.
And what does it do to your mind, Grant? So you take an edible and it processes. I watched the Joe Rogan comedy special, and he explains, he says, because it processes through your liver, it's a whole different experience. Like it messes with you in different ways. So does it open up your mind? Does it make you feel relaxed?
Totally. I mean, it's also, the fun part about it is right now and this is the perfect podcast for this to happen, but this ATF, this is I think it's a sativa, so it's a little bit more active, but it is potent. So what is happening is I'm in the middle of sentences, and I'm talking, and I'm like finishing a thought, and then I'm looking at you guys, and I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? And then that's the power of this stuff, because I'm thinking about, you say words, you say things, and then stuff pops up in my head when I'm a little stoned, and then I go down that route, and then you start thinking about when you're talking, what am I going to say next? It's a mess. Like, I've never done a podcast this stoned before, and I'm just staring at myself right making eye contact direct.
But honestly, I want to think about that. How long can you? I'm envious. How long can you stay awake going at this pace? Because I'm telling you, I would have been crashed by now.
All day, man.
Really?
My girlfriend hates me. Like we've got a beautiful apartment together. We just moved in about a month ago.
Nice.
And she is just like, you don't stop. Like not the weed stuff, but you just don't. It's constant, and I don't sleep. That's the other thing that's really fun to know about me is I'll go to bed. I go to bed at like 11:30, and I'll wake up every day at 3:45. And it's just like, oh, okay, cool, I'm home. And like I come home and then I work on funeral home stuff, but that's gonna stop soon, I think, because my body's gonna be like, nope.
Let's go to sleep for 4 days and we'll wake up and see where we're at.
Those were that was the best. I remember it was after season 3 of My Funeral Home Stories. I was so burned out and so mentally distressed, truthfully, at the end of that season. And by the time I talked to you, I was not in a great shape, Rob, when we spoke for those 3.5 or whatever it was absurd because I went for it. And then I think after that was the last episode or second to last that I needed to finish. And I went to bed and I slept uninterrupted, I think, for like 17, 18 hours. Wow. And for somebody who I sleep, a couple hours a night, I'm good. And that was, I don't know if that was my body telling me, hey, maybe don't do that again. Because I was staying up. I would see you, it was pre-COVID, and I'd see you and I would have not gone to bed, Rob.
Yeah, you'd be like, you'd have that look.
Grant,
it's 12:30. I've been up since 4 days ago.
Yeah, dude, it was bad.
It's been Sunday.
But then I was like, this is why radio people, like that stigma of the rampant cocaine use back in the day was because think about it. Like, I mean, I'm not advocating. I don't do cocaine. I'm not advocating it. But if you think about
like
working,
the way it smells, I get it.
Yeah. Like just like Kid Rock, man. Didn't he say that? He had a cool.
Sounds like something he would say if he didn't say it.
It's like, I don't like cocaine. I just like the smell. Yeah, Kid Rock. You're welcome. He gets paid for that.
He got that from me.
But yeah, I think it's funny when you work on a morning like radio schedule and you work the hours that you work in the afternoons, in the evening time. There's like no stop. So I totally think it's funny because now it's not like that at all. But back in the day, it must have just been insanity, like everywhere. Just
because it does the morning radio life. Just to give some insight on it. So Grant works on JohnJay Rich, which is a show based in Phoenix where the Brewmance is based, but it's on how many stations now, Grant?
25, 30. Somewhere it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of places. Before you get into too much of this, I do not do cocaine, guys.
We got you.
Right. Great. Totally fine. Just the THC.
Yeah.
But, just exactly. But morning radio life is an interesting life because you're awake before everyone else in the world. I used to get up at 2:30 in the morning because I had to be on the air at 5. So I'd get up at 2:30 and I would go to work at like 3:30 and I would start writing my newscast. So it's kind of a similar schedule. So even if you try to go to bed at 6 p.m., which is impossible to do most of the time, and you get a full night's sleep, you're always like behind the 8 ball because you're waking up and it's dark out and you drive it into work. And you're like, what am I doing this for? And you're like, ooh, because I like radio.
Well, I mean, also too, the accomplishment of finishing a day in morning radio every day is really, like, considering what I do and what I actually do for my job for a living. It's not it's not difficult. It's just like it's a lot of things all at once happening, and you're trying to control something that's just uncontrollable. It's just going to be what it is. And every day you leave work thinking, oh yeah, we made it. Cool. You know what I mean? It's okay. See you tomorrow. Like, oh, we're back at it. And it's not a negative thing. It's not a complaining thing. It's a really fun way to work. Like, it truthfully, to not know what's going to happen, to book 9 people to be on the phone, that day and have 8 of them fall through. It's just like you end up, all these things end up happening that make you, I think, not only a more interesting person, but you're more patient. You're more equipped to handle tense situations. I think it's a lot like working at a funeral home in a totally different regard, but putting on a live show, you guys know this, it's a production, it's a show. And so when it goes sideways, it's awful. And you don't ever want to feel that feeling when it goes sideways. So I don't know. It's such a rewarding experience considering how scary it can be and how much work it can be. Like, it's truthfully probably the coolest gig, morning radio. Maybe other than
afternoon radio's okay.
Oh yeah,
bad.
You guys,
you get to do the same thing and sleep.
No, but here's the thing: you got to deal with, what time do you guys come in?
Noon.
Oh, so no traffic. What time do you guys go home?
7:30.
Oh,
no traffic, buddy.
Well, okay. Here's the problem, Rob and Mike. The issue is when you go home, you've finished your job, you've climbed Everest for the day, right? Like I just said, like you had your moment. You're like, shit, how do we get through that? And then you get home and you're like, I gotta do the dishes. I gotta figure out what's for dinner. I gotta feed the cats, change their litter. It's just never ending. And you just, that's the thing that is hardest about it, is trying to feel like you're resting at any time, because your life can't stop just because you work 3 a.m. to noon.
And then you have friends that want to hang out at like 7 o'clock at night. And you're like, oh, should I do this? Should I go hang out? And you end up doing it way more than you think you probably should. But you're like, I don't want to miss out on life.
See, you guys, this is the closest thing I have to adult male friends. Truthfully, you like our interaction. This is it. I see people with their bros going out and being cool and stuff, and I'm not envious. I never wanted to be a friend guy. Is that weird?
What does that mean? Explain that.
I just don't. I have friends, but I don't. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those vibes where I don't hang out with people. It's not for me. I'm very social, but when I'm at work, I'm social. And when I come home, I'm social for a while, but I don't want to go somewhere and be more so, because I don't know when to stop. And I'll just be like, oh yeah, let's hang out next Thursday. It's just, I spread myself too thin when I have friends. And plus also people are complicated. I don't care enough about anybody that doesn't live in my apartment. You know what I mean? Like there's no, Caitlin, I love her. I love her family. I love my family. But other than that, like if somebody's expectation is for me to go to hey, come to an adult arcade. Like, no, I own a Switch. I live in an adult arcade. Like, chill the fuck out. Like, that's my beef with adult friendship. I think it's impossible, because you'll never be as good a friend as your friend wants you to be, or vice versa. Like, it just sucks, right, guys?
Well, it's funny to bring up the video game thing, because my new Xbox just showed up today. So ooh. I'm a man child like that. I'm in 100%. And I got the Switch too. So whatever, get online. I'll tear you up.
Oh, see, here's my thing, man. It's like, I don't, if I'm playing a game, I want it to be, for example, I'm about to make a big investment in my house. I'm about to get Animal Crossing.
Whoa!
You know why? Because
Animal Crossing.
That is the least cool thing for a 35-year-old to be doing, but it's like I'm playing a game. Like I enjoy the part of video games where it's so, I like the cartoon aspect. Like I love Mario Kart. I think the Mario games, Luigi's Mansion, that shit is so fun. But I don't want to play Call of Duty. Like if I was say
duty.
I don't want to be like a gunman. I don't want to be a war. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to see something like that. I can just watch like a movie that's crazy.
Then get into the Lego games then.
I beat all of them, dude.
I do too.
No, I had a serious. It started with the Star Wars Lego saga back for PlayStation 2. I destroyed like all those games and wasted hours and hours in college just doing that stuff. And then I got into what came next? The Batman Lego. I owned all those for every
Jurassic
system.
Park and all that. Yeah.
I didn't like the Jurassic Park or the Harry Potter,
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, those weren't for me. I like it because the cool part about those games, Rob, I can tell you're glazing over because you're not a big game guy, not a big gamer over there. But no,
I don't have time to game. I like gaming. I haven't done it in 4 years.
The part that's cool about the Star Wars or the Lego games is all you do is you just run around and press one button, and then the gems come in. It's like playing a slot machine. It's literally the same thing as going to casino.
Dopamine hit after dopamine hit.
And you're like, oh my God, that was 5,000. Like that's the vibe. Yeah.
Well, I had a whole Call of Duty thing. And, one day this was my wake up call. So my wife was out of town. So I'm like, all right, cool. Saturday, I'm going to wake up, hang out. I ended up playing Call of Duty for like 9 hours. And I looked around and I was like, it's dark out. What have I done all day? Played Call of Duty. I was like, wow.
So cool. You're so cool.
Stop this.
No, I both said duty. It's fantastic.
What do you say? Duty?
What? No, it's just it's funny saying duty.
Duty. No, I just got a cool game for the Switch called Serial Cleaner, and you're a cleaner for the mob. And
nice.
It's like one of those games it's all from overhead. So it's like a big rectangle, and then all these guards have flashlights, and you see their cone, their scope of the flashlight. But your job is to be stealth and sneak around them and pick up the bodies and clean up the blood. And it's unbelievable game. It's called Serial Cleaner. I think it's like $9 for Switch. So
what's the block game everybody's playing?
Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft. So I call it Duplo to tick my kids off. I'm like, oh, look, you're playing with your Duplo little Legos again. That's cute. But then they go, Dad, come here. And they show me their giant estates that they have made that would make, Elon Musk blush because it's their own island that they have with 18 levels. And it's unreal, the creativity behind it. It really is.
I just didn't. What were you guys into as little kids? Like, what was
Excite Bike? Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out was it. Baseball Stars. Remember that one, Mike?
Remember Double Dribble. Remember
Double
that
Dribble was great.
Yeah.
Remember Baseball Stars? Baseball Stars was the first game that you could save your stats. You could create a player. And I created this player, and he was nasty. That's why I like video games. I like playing like the NBA games. You can create your player, and you can go 99 on all things and just dominate. I don't want to challenge. I just want to escape.
Yeah.
Amen. I put everything on easy mode because I want to have fun. I'm not there to test myself. I'm 46 years old.
Here I'll give your listeners a fun. This is a thing they can try at home if they own Mario Kart of any kind. But you put it on easy on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then you turn everything down to easy, and then what you do is when the race starts, you just stay there and let them go down a lap. And then you race a lap behind, and it makes you feel like you're Steve McQueen, man, except with a Nintendo Switch.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. But no, it's really fun because
not on Rainbow Road, though, because then you're just hosed. You can't. There's no way.
Man. There's but truthfully, I think the part of my brain that wants to be into video games is into horror movies, like ultra graphic, disturbing horror movies. I think that's my scene.
But that ties into my funeral home stories because you lived so many horror scenes in real life that I would freak out if I even thought about. You saw stuff.
I'm writing about a suicide right now that's probably going to get me in trouble. I'm not going to lie because it's not it's the attitude, it's everything. I'm not sure if it's going to go over, but that's why it's in the premium episode because it's a little harsher. But I don't know, man. I was thinking about that stuff, and I think it's all starting to kind of. I don't know. The movie thing is not so much because it's nice to see something shocking. That's why I think the movie tie-in with the funeral home thing is because. Sorry, I'm stoned, guys. This just in
is influencing Grant Inman.
Yeah. No, I don't remember what the question said. Next question, Rob. No, I'm just kidding.
Next question.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes. I can't even remember what my question was.
I started talking about suicide in the story, and I just happened to think I was like, oh my God, I need to finish writing this section and this section. It's one of those things when I start thinking about it, all of a sudden I'll just be like. I have a lot
of work to do.
Yeah, so then I just lost track of that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. But I mean,
unprofessional.
The reality is, this is the way life. We can try to ignore that suicide happens, but it really happens. It has an impact on you having to see it, and obviously the families that have to live through it.
And the thing I talk about that I think is, I think it's an interesting point because it's like a 17-year-old kid, and I had two friends in Catholic school that killed themselves. Different occasions, and I remember being really with the way I was really confused by the way the school handled it, or the way the theology department chose to handle it, because they were very not cool about it. And I mean, you're like, these are your friends, and you have a faculty member who's like, well, they're in hell, so forever. And I remember just kind of that was the approach. And then so when I started thinking about it's especially this story that I'm telling, I'm wrapping this whole thought in, but it's the idea that permanence, that punishment for all suicides seems weird in religion and morality, but it also keeps people from doing it. So I think maybe that's part of it. Maybe if you're like, I'm going to go to hell for this, I'm not going to do it. I mean, maybe that's like and that's kind of what I'm thinking about in the story is, why would like a stage 4 cancer patient who's trying to pull financial burden off their family and relieve their pain and also just move because it's fatiguing for the people who are sick sometimes. And that person is going to the same place as, I don't want to name anyone, but bad people. Like it's a different, that was a really fascinating thing throughout my young adult life, because I had a lot of friends that took that route, and it was always really sad and really shocking and terrible. But I mean, there's times where you can be like, oh, this was happening in their life. It explains it, but it doesn't justify it. It's always, you never have the right answers. You never know enough. So there are always these really traumatic events, that are hard
to have that theological discussion sometime about that topic. I think it'd be a good discussion between the two of us or the three of us, because let me tell you, I've dug into that biblically as well. And hopefully I can bring you some peace and some closure in that. So interesting. Yeah. Let's see. How's that for you? I'm new at this game. Come on.
It's one of those things. It's like I'm not anti-religion. I'm not for it. I think it's great. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just kind of indifferent about all that stuff because I wasn't raised religious. Like I'm 100% totally cool with anybody believing anything and like believing it. That's great. Like I wish I had faith in something that was like, I think I know what it is. I mean, it's something bigger than me, I hope. But that's where I'm at right now with faith. So it's weird writing about it and then also talking about it in regards to like a hot topic like suicide. But dog, I would love to talk about that.
And that's why we love Grant, because he could take this complicated topic of suicide and he can make it relatable
and really uncomfortable for everybody listening.
But I think that's the way to grow, right? You push through your uncomfortable moments and you go, all right, let's deal with this now. And that's actually talk about suicide rather than let's bury our heads in the sand and pretend it doesn't happen.
Well, also too, I don't think there's, if you write about something, and especially with the way I'm doing it, like I'm putting a lot of thought into it before I commit anything to the page. So it's kind of one of those things where it really helped me kind of sift through how I feel instead of just, I mean, it doesn't seem like it now, obviously, but I think, I don't know. I think writing down what you're thinking about in life might just be a good idea, because if you can like write it down, commit it, anything to paper, even if it's like an idea for work, if you can like express it that way, it's something. Like you've already made something, you know what I mean? And I think that's .com.
.com. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I've actually just started journaling, about a couple of years ago, but it just made a whole world of difference for me because I can organize my thoughts and I can express things when I'm not worried about other people judging me, or if I say this out loud, who's going to interpret it a certain way. I can write it on a page and then I can look at it and go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't say it that way if I write it out loud.
Well, and also too, it's you become a conversational assassin when you're sharp. I mean, in my opinion, like when you're writing all the time and when you're podcasting all the time and you're talking to people and you're thinking, oh, this could be funny. You're trying stuff. You're seeing how you feel. It's you become, it boils everything down so much. Like it makes life talking to people. Do you guys probably have this where you go out to dinner and you're like, these people so boring. Does that happen to you guys? Where you're how?
No comment.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have dinner with each other and think, how did you get here? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's just, you guys never thought that about Mike, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
When did you guys cool?
So when did you guys start dating? Was that like
about 13 years ago? I have a pretty solid relationship.
Wait, but
communicate well.
I've never asked, how did you guys meet at work?
I was trying to get into radio. And I reached out to Rob Hunter, who was a producer / host at a different station, and said, can I take you to Smashburger to find out how to get into radio?
It's code.
That was 13 years ago. That was code too. He didn't get it though. So I actually ended up at radio. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I should have steered him away. I gave him the bad advice that's go into radio. No.
And then so you went your separate paths in the industry, and then intersected again, right?
Well, yeah, separate paths were mostly every time he went to a new gig, I took over his old gig. That's really what it was. And I'm being very serious here in the Valley. It was more of a career stalking kind of move.
That's so okay. So what is the lead male? What like so in that at that time was that a producer's job, producer person like news writer, newscaster job, like that sort of thing, Rob, that Mike came in and took your spot?
Yeah, it was more of the back end side of a talk show. So I was working on the show, and I would book all the guests, and I would put all the topics together, and say, okay, we're going to do this at this time. We're going to talk about this here. So then I got, I guess, promoted, and I was like my own host, and then Mike took over that sort of producer / sidekick role.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. See, I don't know the history here, and it's so Mike. What did you do before? We've talked about. Well, I feel like we've talked about this ad nauseum, and I'm embarrassed I don't remember. But what did you do before radio?
Real estate. 15 years. 15 years in investment real estate.
I don't know if I ever knew
and
that.
Property management is awful. And I'm the worst.
He doesn't talk about it a lot.
I was the worst agent and the worst property manager in history. Terrible.
Did you just, I mean, was it one of those, did you try really hard or were you just like, I don't like
I was forced to. My grandfather told me that's what I was going to do with my life. So I said, okay. And that's what I pretty much started doing with my life. Yeah.
That sucks. See, that's why I didn't go to the funeral industry, because I didn't want to be just doing the thing that everybody thought I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because that's
14 years ago, I thought, hey, let's try radio.
Honestly, that was a good time.
So, yeah.
That was probably a great time to get into radio, right?
Well, yeah, during the downturn, I mean, we lost everything. I mean, it's what we're going to do is that we have to rebuild something, and might as well rebuild in a different industry that we like or we want to try, you know.
What do you think the future is with podcasting in general? Like, are you guys interested in the podcasting model? Like, I mean, in terms of, you guys do a daily show now that is a podcast and also a radio show, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's both. So is there a part of you, like, what happens next with podcasting for you guys? I mean, is it like, how does it grow? Where does it go? Because I've never really thought about it.
You could tell us.
No, I know. I love talking to podcasters because it's such a confusing time with so many people taking advantage of people not knowing what's happening in the industry. You see all these master classes, how to produce a podcast, only $899. Come, or there's gear that is, people are just totally, it's garbage gear that they're selling to consumers, and they're making podcasting either I don't know if it's too easy or it's I don't know what it is now, but I'm worried that there's too many and it's just going to be hard. It's like YouTube. There's so many users now. It's you find your niche, you find those 4 or 5 channels you follow, and then what else? I mean, is that just everyone's a content creator now? Is that
100%? That's what it seems like. But we actually talked to a Navy SEAL a couple of weeks ago, and he basically says he writes books now. He writes thrillers, and he says, I'm going to put the time in so that people don't feel like they're wasting time reading my books.
Right.
The same thing with podcasts. We try to approach it as, okay, we want to have interesting conversations with interesting people who have different points of view than us, because we realize at the end of the day, we're all human beings. So what can we learn from each other? What can we entertain ourselves? That's one of the things I love about being a human. And listen, even my funeral home stories, Grant, is that's your creativity that entertains me. And I think that's one of the greatest things about being a human is we have this amazing brain, this greatest thing that's ever been evolved, I guess, at least that we know of.
Right.
And we get to entertain ourselves. We spend a lot of time with each other in different ways. And I think that's what's going to happen with podcasts. Podcasts are a place for interesting conversations or interesting stories. And I think that the good will rise and the bad will fall, either because people will drop off or they're not going to put the effort in, or they're just not interesting enough or don't work on being interesting enough.
I don't understand. We talked about this before, but it's infinitely frustrating to talk to people who think they can do everything. Like, I know I can't do everything. I know I'm not capable of. I'm never going to be a singer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna start a YouTube channel where I sing karaoke. Like, no, dude. Like,
you get shut down anyway for stealing music.
It's like people I get messages all the time, and hey, why aren't you on TikTok? You could be making a ton of money on TikTok. And it's like, well, I'm not on TikTok.
Right.
Done. Like, easy conversation. Like, I listen, if there's a way to make money, it's going to take too much time for me to figure out, and everyone will already have saturated and taken all the money, the community money from TikTok. Like, no, I'm good, man. I'm going to write stories. I have a degree that says I can write stories. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to be like a dick about it because it's like, I cannot stand people who aren't like, there's so many people who just aren't, and it's not, and like what they do isn't talent. You're cutting up a bar of soap with a razor blade. So it's satisfying for people who like that sort of thing. Like, great, really cool. You're at your funeral, they're going to be like, you know what Alan did for 40 years? He cut soap with a razor blade for Instagram for teenagers. Like, cool.
And
man.
It was amazing.
I want to make
I
want to make content for adults that understand big words and want to have real conversations. I think that's so much more interesting than whatever TikTok is. Sorry to just trash TikTok. I know you guys are big TikTok advocates.
Oh, huge. We want this Chinese government spying on us just like everybody else. Like, that's the other part about TikTok that drives me crazy. Like, it's owned by the Communist Party of China. We'll get into politics later, but I'm like, well, you're giving all of your information to the Communist Party in China when you download TikTok and use it, and they have access to your contacts. I'm like,
we all got duped 2 years ago with that. Take a picture of yourself. We'll tell you what piece of art it is. Remember, wasn't that was going to somewhere, outer space, Mars, one of those crazy, like, I mean, but somebody's like, I don't know. It's just stupid. Like, sorry. Yeah. Hot take. Everything's stupid. That's
Grant wants that's Mario Kart, not TikTok. That's what it is.
That's right, guys.
Yes.
Hot take.
We got to wrap up this because we actually have to go do our afternoon radio.
I'm sorry for just eating up all your real estate. I feel like I came on here and just
we had you on here, buddy. We're just wrapping up because I really have to go to the bathroom. That's really all it is.
That's really the end of the day how this works. Yeah. So tell us where we can find you, Grant. So do you want to give us your Instagram? How do we find My Funeral Home Stories? How do we find How to Become a Terrible Person? Both of those are Grant's podcasts.
Yeah, you can find both of those podcasts on Apple, iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, any of those. My Funeral Home Stories, How to Become a Terrible Person. And also, I have an album out called Pomo and Kitsch Fetch. And you can follow me on Instagram at Pomo and Kitsch, or just look up Grant Inman. Either way.
I follow both. I subscribe to both of his podcasts. I've watched all of his music videos. I've listened to his album. That's why we love Grant. He's super talented, super interesting human being.
I just like talking to him in the hall.
You guys are sweet. Not here, though. I like talking. We should do this in the hallway next time.
We should. Just sit in the hallway and occupy the hallway.
And sit like 2 feet apart and make everybody have to walk through us while we're doing the podcast.
Excuse me.
And like give them the look like, hey, we're not doing anything here.
We're working here.
There's Grant's podcast.
Look at that.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I got too stoned for this.
We love it.
Is there such a thing? Is there such a thing?
No, there were 4 or 5 mini panic attacks that happened in the middle of this hour and 22 minutes. Yeah, I freaked out a couple times. So
okay,
you did well. You covered that up very well.
We'll have a follow up then.
I love it.
Part 2 coming soon. Grant and cats. We'll get into Awesome the cat next time because Grant literally has a cat he named Awesome, and that in and of itself is awesome.